Hello, my dear friends. I'm back with a new video, and in today's video, I am back again on the aviation topic, on aerospace topic. I know the last video was little different, but today's video is again going to talk about the thing what we love most. So, aerospace and aviation. So, today I'm going to talk about the air pocket. What does that mean? What happens when an aircraft encounter uh, what we call air pocket? And also, I'm going to talk about the depressurization because we heard about some news about recent depressurization failure. So, I'm going to talk about that as well. So, with that, let's start uh, this video going deeper into the details. So first let me start with the depressurization system. So what is about the uh, the pressurization system, right? So to understand the depressurization, uh, let's understand what is the pressurization system. So the pressurization systems in an aircraft is that it's the in a layman terms, you take out some of the pressurized air from the compressor and the engine and pump it in the aircraft cabin, that is where the passengers sit. So inside the cabin and pressurize the cabin to a comfortable level so that the people inside can breathe and their body and their the blood circulation systems functions in a efficient and proper manner. So what happens is that because you might have you know uh, heard or you have read about in different books or other places that as we go up in the altitude, so the air becomes thinner, right? So that's why when you go in a mountainous region, so you find it difficult to breathe uh, properly because that is where the air becomes thinner and the pressure becomes less. So that's why your body starts to uh, adjust to that, and that's where you find difficulty in breathing. So what happens in an aircraft is that because an aircraft is flying somewhere around say uh, 35,000 to 42,000 feet above the ground, which is much beyond the Mount Everest, right? So uh, at that level, the oxygen level is very less and the air pressure is very less. So for the general people, it's not uh, easy to sustain uh, for long time in that uh, such a thinner air. So what we do is that in aircraft we have the bleed air system. So bleed air is taken from the engine compressor and it it pumped into the uh, cabin. It goes through different filtration process, mixing, because that air is hotter because of compression and all that. So that gets mixed with cooler air, and then with that it goes into the cabin and it maintains a pressure which is much more sustainable. Generally, in aviation industry, we try to maintain up air cabin air pressure, which is somewhere around 8,000 feet or lesser. So basically, even when you are flying at a height of say 40,000 feet, your cabin pressure is about same as the air at 8,000 feet. So which is much more comfortable. So that's what we do so that the passenger comfort and everything is maintained. Now when this pressurization fails, so what does that mean is that there are various systems, various valves and pumps and other systems which manages this entire process. Now if any of those fails, uh, what it creates is that the aircraft fails to maintain that comfortable cabin pressure, right? So it start to depressurize, and if it becomes you know 30,000 feet or 35,000 feet kind of pressure, you will really find it difficult to breathe, and that's where you know probably uh, the mask will come down and you have to breathe artificially. So in such situation, what happens is that the the pilot starts descending rapidly, so that the aircraft comes down to a very lower altitude where this uh, pressure, uh, because it starts to become, the cabin pressure starts to become similar to the outside pressure. So that's where you need to come down to a altitude where people can breathe. So somewhere like 8,000 feet or uh, 7,000 feet, they need to come down, and which is very less for an aircraft uh, to fly safely. So that's where they look for alternative airport for an emergency landing and all that. So this is what is about the cabin pressurization and depressurization. um, we heard some news about recent news about SpiceJet flight from Delhi to Fujairah in UAE had suffered some depressurization issues. So obviously it will go through different you know uh, investigation and rectification of the process, why it has happened. But this is how it happens, and you know uh, I'm sure that the rectification measures would be taken, and such situation will not be faced in future. So with that, uh, let me get into the next topic today. So next topic is about the air pocket. So this this was requested by different people, and I know one of my relative was flying recently and uh, had a encounter of such air pocket and the turbulence post that. So they were frightened with the situation. So I thought of covering this point as well, because uh, this is another very important aspect, and we have heard about many accidents previously because of such encounters. So let's try to understand what it is. So air pocket is nothing but you know a pocket, invisible pocket, I would say, an invisible pocket of air with very less air density and uh, very less air pressure, right? So the entire theory based on which the aircraft fly is on the Bernoulli's theorem, and it all the lift and drag, all this are generated based on this flow of air, the aerodynamics, right? So Now imagine you are flying uh, in a normal situation, and suddenly at a certain place the air temperature uh, increases, and because of that suddenly the air becomes thinner, and because of that it's uh, it becomes you know there is suddenly a uh, pressure difference, right? So here you are flying with a uh, in a certain air pressure, and then you just cross this invisible boundary, and suddenly the air pressure drops, right? So what happens is that uh, the aircraft on its own, as it is designed to you know manage such situation, so it will try to uh, keep itself in a stable condition, right? So when it is flying at a certain altitude and all that, and suddenly the air pressure goes down, suddenly it encounters such a thin air. So what happens is it suddenly comes down. So why it suddenly comes down? Because it is trying to come down to a pressure altitude which it was flying earlier, right? Now because the other side the air has become thinner, so and the air pressure is lesser, so it tries to come down, okay, to stabilize itself. Now because of that, within few seconds it might lose altitude very rapidly, and when it loses the altitude very rapidly, what happens is we encountered the turbulence, right? The turbulence is because the aircraft is uh, working absolutely fine under its aerodynamic principle, but our body does not adjust like that, right? Because we have uh, a gravitational force, and if we are suddenly coming down, so think about say Ferris wheel or a lift which is in free fall. So how will you feel? So suddenly you will feel that your body is not having uh, any weight, right? So it happens similarly. So you are at a certain altitude with a gravitational force working on your body, and suddenly the aircraft comes down, thousands of feet, and your body tries to adjust to that, and that's where you starts the palpitation, and feel that your you know body is not working properly, and you are encountering the turbulence and all that. And again suddenly it comes down like that, and then again at a uh, after crossing another invisible boundary where the air pressure is suddenly uh, above a certain level, again the aircraft tries to go up, right? So that's where you encounter the turbulence, okay, and your body try to adjust to the sudden change again and again, and that's where you feel that oh, you are going through such a mess, right? So this is while from an aerodynamics perspective, from a physics perspective, this is uh, very normal thing, uh, when we call normal thing, but there are obviously dangers. Why? Because this air pockets and this kind of situation mostly seen in the mountainous region, uh, because of the surface of mountains, and the sunlight falling on those mountains which creates the heat, and because of those heating in localized heating and cooling, uh, the air pressure suddenly changes, the air temperature suddenly changes just within a few meter or few kilometers, right, from one side of the mountain to the other side of the mountain, the things change completely, drastically. Now the challenge is that if that air pressure is very less suddenly, and the aircraft is flying uh, at a lower altitude, and it comes down very fast, and it does not have time to recover to a safe altitude or intervene within time. What can happen is that it can hit the ground, it can hit the mountain, sides of the mountain, and there could be crashes. So that's what we have seen previously in many such accidents that has happened world over. So these are some of the situations. So we sometimes call it clear air turbulence, and there are technologies today to identify such situations uh, in beforehand, so that you can take corrective measures and you can try to avoid those regions and all that. So we can definitely discuss more about that in future videos, but but this is something which I wanted to cover today, and I hope that you liked the topics today and learned something new. If you have liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe my channel if you haven't done that yet, so that others can learn as well. So with that, have a great day. Thank you.